What's up, everybody? It's your boy Big Papa JT, bringing you my post-game recap and analysis of Ohio State versus TCU. This was probably my favorite game of the day. I didn't think it was going to be this good. I thought Ohio State would run away with it. I thought Ohio State was going to destroy TCU, but TCU actually put up a good fight, and I feel the TCU looked very, very good on defense. The offense looked very good at the beginning of the game, scoring those two touchdowns. But the defense was really the story for TCU in the first half. They allowed no offensive touchdowns. And you could say that the TCU defense still did good because they were up 14-13 on Ohio State in the first half, and in the third quarter things started to go awry. But really, they only really allowed about, I'm trying to do the math, I don't really remember, but they only really gave up defensive touchdowns. I think they gave up two. It was that block punt, and that interception by the defensive lineman who took it back. And turnovers killed TCU this game, especially in the third quarter. Ohio State went on a big run, scoring 20 points. And then in the fourth quarter, the TCU quarterback threw that key interception when they was trying to bring the game back within one possession that ended the game. We're going to look at the box scores. Total yards, Ohio State had 526, TCU had 511, Ohio State had 344 passing yards, TCU had 308, Ohio State had 182 rushing yards, TCU had 203, Ohio State had 0 turnovers, TCU had 3 turnovers. Time of possession, Ohio State had the ball for 33 minutes and 51 seconds. TCU had it for 41 minutes and 9 seconds. Ohio State was 3 or 4 in the red zone. TCU was 2 or 3. Ohio State was a pedestrian for a 12 on third down, and TCU was 7 of 15. Now, the TCU defense was pretty good despite all the yards that they gave up. They had a good. They allowed a lot of yards in the first half, but they weren't allowing touchdowns. I believe Ohio State had about 300 yards of total offense in the first half, and then they didn't allow no touchdowns. So the second half, the third quarter, is when Ohio State was able to get the run game going, and that's when things started to go in Ohio State's favor. Dwayne Haskins, this was my first time watching him start. He was very impressive to me. I liked his arm. He's a great pocket passer, probably the best pocket passer Ohio State has ever had. He's not a crazy athlete, even though he did have one touchdown rushing, but he was 24-38, 344 passing yards, and he had 2 touchdowns, no picks. J.K. Dobbins was the leading rusher. He had 18 carries for 121 rushing yards. K. Hill had 6 receptions for 95 yards, and of course, 1 touchdown. And Paris Campbell also had that big play. I think it was a screen play that went for about 60-something yards. And of course, D. Jones, the defensive lineman, who probably had the play of the game, that interception for a touchdown. Sean Robinson was okay. He went 24-40 passing, 308 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. D. Anderson was probably the player of the game, even though TCU lost. He had 12 carries, 154 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns. So I know his yards per carry was something crazy, like 12 yards per carry or something like that. Jay Rieger, and D. Anderson also broke TCU's record, LaDainian Tomlinson's record for longest run in school history, 93 yards. Jay Rieger had 7 receptions, 98 yards. A. Dunham had 1 tackle for loss and 1 sack. So overall, the TCU looked very, Very, very good in my opinion. They just need to clean up the turnovers, and TCU hung in. They still had a chance to win even in the fourth quarter when things started turning south. And TCU proved a lot of people wrong. They looked very good despite this loss. Everybody thought it was going to be a blowout, but they kept the game close. And if it wasn't for a few mistakes and a few turnovers and some special team mishaps, they could have won this game. Very, very good game. Very impressed. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Make sure to like the video and subscribe. And